Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It is E and we are about to embark on a very special journey together that will last us through the summer. That's right, I'm going to be reviewing every Disney Channel original movie. Let's get into it. So you may be familiar with a channel on YouTube called Kate Loves Disney. She is a really great channel and mostly does Disney Channel reviews and TV show commentary, stuff like that. It's really fun. And she is doing a series as well where she is ranking every Disney Channel original movie. Now, I am not going to be doing exactly that. In her video, she does not review each movie. She gives maybe just a few notes on each before moving on because she is trying to get through all of the Disney Channel original movies in a few parts. But like I said, this is going to be going all through our summer. It is a Disney Channel original movie summer. I swear that there was a summer when we were kids that they called a DCOM summer where they released a bunch of new Disney Channel movies, but when I looked that up, I couldn't find anything on it. So if any of you remember a summer, maybe like 2004 or 5, where Disney Channel declared it a DCOM summer and released a bunch of them, let me know. The first movies that we'll be reviewing are all pertaining to either sports or popularity in some form or fashion. Now, these are very popular topics for Disney Channel original movies. So I'm going to be doing 9 or 10 movies per video. So that we can try and get through them all over the summer, but so that we don't have to rush through them. And this is going to be the only video where I really explain what's going on and what the point of everything is, but each video I release will have a loose theme, so that we can kind of, if you're more interested in some movies versus others, you may be able to find my review of it more easily. I will say right now I have not watched every single DCOM yet. I am still working on it. Like I said, am planning to do this all throughout the summer, and I'm going to be trying to do one DCOM review video per week. So with that said, let's jump on in, and the first movie that we're going to be talking about is the first DCOM that's actually available on Disney+. The first DCOM of all time is Under Wraps. There were other movies that were released directly to Disney Channel before that, but Under Wraps was considered the first one. It was the first one branded as such, but it is not on Disney+, so I'm going to have to watch that later through some other platform. The first one available on Disney+ is called Brink. It is about a kid named Andy Brinker, but all of his friends call him Brink, and it is about skating. Rollerblading specifically, which is a very 90s thing. This movie came out in 1998. It's super dated in that way. Like, nobody rollerblades, and if they do, nobody really thinks they're cool. So this movie is actually pretty good. So of these movies that I'm about to review, it's probably my favorite, which is why I am doing the fan art in the background for this movie, and that's why I decided to talk about it first. One line very early on in the movie, Andy says to his friend, "When you woke up this morning, did you say to yourself, today I'm gonna talk, or today I'm gonna skate?" And I can't imagine that anybody wakes up in the morning saying to themselves, today I'm gonna skate. Because him and his friends are skaters, so they skate every day. So obviously they wake up in the morning and they don't have to say to themselves, today I'm gonna skate. Anyway, that first line is cheesy, but throughout the rest of the movie, the dialogue's actually pretty good. His friends and the rival skating gang, the X-Blades, are, like, they're rivals at school, and they get into a lot of, like, fights against each other, and they actually have some pretty good comebacks. The only thing about this movie that I don't like is his friends kind of have a lack of empathy for his family situation. So basically they're soul skaters. They skate for fun. They don't skate for money. But the thing is that, like, Andy's family really needs money. So he's going back and forth with the idea of becoming a sponsored skater. And his friends have no empathy for him. They're like, we're soul skaters, man. We don't do it for money. Yeah. They never really hear him out either. He brings it up to his friend Gabriella, and she says, man, we all need the money. So basically she just blows him off. Like I said, no empathy for him and his situation. And the thing is, for him, money is a big deal, and it's stressful for a kid in his position. His dad is laid off of work. He overhears his parents talking about like whether or not they're going to be able to pay the bills. So his parents aren't expecting him to make money for them, but it's just something that he feels pressed to do. The other thing I don't really like about the movie, I'll say quickly, is that he kind of goes back and forth with the X-Blades. Like I said, they're like the rival skating gang, but they're sponsored skaters. And so he joins them, he like basically yells at him and is like, forget you guys, and then he goes back and forth, and they're like, come on back and skate with this man. And it's like, at a certain point, like, wouldn't their coach or whatever, like the guy who actually pays them, be like, man, you gotta quit this, like, just get out? Like, they wouldn't put up with him going back and forth with them all the time. But the thing that I really like about this movie is the theme. I think it's really thought-provoking. The concept is like your career is not your worth. Like your hobbies and what you do isn't what you derive value from as a human being. His dad says to him, like, when I was laid off of work, like, this is something I had to learn, like, who you are as a person is about the company you keep and like the character that you have. And I think that's a really powerful message, especially for someone like me as an adult. Like, that's a refreshing reminder that what I do for money and hobbies is not what makes me who I am. It's just something that I do, and it's not where my worth is, because I don't have a job right now, and that's something I struggle with. So it was really reaffirming to hear that. So it's a message that applies well to kids in school as well as adults. But at the same time, I think that the idea that you shouldn't do something you love for money is kind of bogus. So like his friends are like, we're soul skaters, we don't do it for the money, we do it for the love of skating. But it's like, if you love something and can make money doing it, shouldn't you? Like, then if you go to work every day but you love what you're doing, it won't become tedious. But maybe the concept on the other hand is, if it starts being all about the money, the fun is gone. Like I said, it's really thought-provoking, because I do feel like society pressures people at every moment to turn all of their hobbies into financial opportunities, which is burdensome, and it makes you feel like what you're doing isn't worthwhile if it doesn't make money. So like I said, it's a really thought-provoking movie, and it's something that like I go back and forth with a lot. But all in all, I think that the movie is really pretty good for a DCOM especially. It was one of the first ones, so I feel like those ones actually did have higher quality than some of the ones that came along later. And the skating is fun to watch. So for each of these movies, I'm going to be giving them ratings in 4 categories. Some movies will get bonus categories, like if it's a musical, I'll give a rating for the songs, but I will average the scores for the movie to basically give it its overall score. So for Brink, I give the story a 3 out of 5. I give the lesson of the movie 5 out of 5. I give the acting 4 out of 5 because there's a couple of cheesy lines. And the enjoyability, I give 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed Brink. Moving on, the next movie. Motocrossed. This one came out a little bit later. It's still kind of an old school DCOM. This is a classic girls can do anything story. It's about a girl named Andrea whose brother Andrew gets injured and can't do the motocross race for their family racing team, Carson Racing. Their dad is not very supportive of Andrea being a motocross racer. So she basically, with the help of her mom, cross-dresses as her brother to do the races while her dad is in Europe trying to find a replacement for her brother, a boy racer, to come race for their team. And it's really fun. The cross-dressing is cute, and it's actually pretty convincing. Not to say that the girl who plays Andrea looks like a boy, but she can convincingly play a boy, and you can believe that maybe it is a boy. A lot of times with stuff like that, it's like, this is very obviously a girl with short hair. It is not, but they did a good job with it. But the thing is, as with these cross-dressing stories, the girl can do anything, cross-dresses a boy to prove it, whatever. There's always this kind of weird, like, dynamic at play where there's a love interest who doesn't realize that she's a girl, and so, like, they become friends, and, like, she's kind of flirting with him, maybe subconsciously, because she thinks he's cute. And the interactions, we're meant to believe that they're entirely just friendly interactions, but it's funny because there's that slight implication that the love interest is bi and kind of flirting with her even when he thinks that he's a boy and doesn't know that she's a girl yet. Because as soon as her brother Andrew comes back to the racing, track, and she has to go back to dressing like a girl again, he's like immediately attracted to her, while at the same time remarking at how similar she looks to her brother. So that's pretty funny. What is kind of sad about this movie is that her dad is kind of the villain, because he shows this like strange partiality with his kids. On the one hand, he is biased against his daughter because he doesn't want her motocross racing, even though it's something she loves. So there's a level of sexism there. But it's also, his reason is that he doesn't want her to get hurt because she's a girl, but he is apparently totally comfortable with his son getting hurt. So it's like weird favoritism in both ways. And that's kind of creepy. But anyway, it's fun to see a supportive mother, and I don't know. It's fun to watch her slowly progress and improve her racing. The racing is exciting to watch. A lot of the other movies, like some we'll get into later in this video, the sport that they're playing is not interesting or fun to watch as the viewer, but motocross racing is interesting to watch. So I would overall say it's a fun movie with a cute love story and exciting races. So for this one, I give the story a 5 out of 5. There are no weird plot holes, and it's really good. The acting gets a 5 out of 5 as well. The lesson gets a 4 out of 5. I like the girls can do anything message, but at the time it wasn't cliche, but it definitely is now. And then for enjoyability, it gets a 3 out of 5. Not one of my favorites, but still pretty good. Moving on. Next up is Gotta Kick It Up. This is a movie about a high school, or maybe a junior high. It's a junior high dance team in a mostly Hispanic area of the United States. So a lot of Hispanic girls on this dance team. It's really refreshing to see a DCOM, or any movie for that matter, that really doesn't feature any catty women. So this movie, none of the girls act jealous over each other. There's no fighting over who's the most popular, like there is in a lot of DCOMs. The girls in this movie are portrayed pretty realistically, I think. In my experience, most girls in high school really don't act that way to each other that much. Certainly there is jealousy and pettiness and like, I can't believe she wore that type of stuff in high school, but not to the extent that we see it in DCOMs usually. So it's really nice to see a movie where the girls are actually supportive of each other and helpful to each other. America Ferrera plays a girl who is struggling in math, but none of her teammates make fun of her for it. They build her up and help her. As a team, they manage to get her some extra credit, and they never make her feel stupid for the area that she struggles with. The message of this movie is kind of the same as always. Believe in yourself. Si se puede, which they say all the time. It's a little bit boring in that respect. It doesn't really bring anything fresh. Like I said, believe in yourself is a really boring message, and we get that a lot in DCOMs. So movies that have that as the lesson are going to have pretty low scores in the lesson category. It may get higher if the message is portrayed in a creative way, but it was not in this movie. The other thing is that each issue that arises in this movie is solved really easily. Like the girl who she was going to be kicked off the dance team because of her math grade, but like just like that, bam, they got her extra credit with a car wash thing, and that was solved. The car wash also solved their budget issue. It was just like bam, bam, bam. Every issue they have is solved like within the next scene. So there's really not a lot of excitement in this movie. The music for the dance routines is also terrible. And like I said, they had this car wash to get, where they wanted to get new uniforms, and their new uniforms are super terrible and boring compared to the old uniforms that they kind of did DIY on to make them cuter, like the old uniforms that they, what do you call that, upcycled Their upcycled uniforms were cuter than their new ones, so that's just a personal opinion, I guess. But yeah, for that reason, gotta kick it up. Kind of irritated me. So overall, I give the story a 3 out of 5. I think I was being generous when I watched this movie and gave it a 3 out of 5. The acting is pretty good, actually. I give it a 4 out of 5. The lesson gets a 2 out of 5, and enjoyability 3 out of 5. Next up, Go Figure. This is a movie about figure skating. There's a girl who wants to take her figure skating to the next level. There's a Russian coach that she meets, but the coach will only agree to tutor her if she goes to this private school. Her parents can't afford it, so she gets into the school on a hockey scholarship because the figure skating coach manages to, like, seduce the hockey coach. Whatever. We're just gonna gloss over the fact that makes little to no sense. Anyway, I do like a movie about female friendship, which is kind of what this movie is about. Caitlin has to learn to cooperate with her hockey teammates and learn to accept them for who they are, blah, 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 blah. This movie is really just not that interesting. The main character, Caitlin, she comes by everything way too easily. She gets whatever she wants. So basically, she's getting to train with a renowned figure skating coach for free because of some weird loopholes with a hockey scholarship. And at the end of the movie, I'm sorry, this is a spoiler, but basically the figure skating championship and the hockey tournament final or whatever, both are occurring on the same day. And, oh no, how is she going to choose between the two? She picks to do the hockey thing because friendship. But of course, because everything works out for her, she gets to go to her figure skating tournament thing too. And she doesn't have her figure skating skates with her. She dropped one, and they won't let her restart. But wouldn't you know it, the people cheer for her, and then, oh wow, she gets to compete too. She just gets whatever she wants. She doesn't really have to work for anything that much. I mean, she does work to improve her hockey game, but even that, she doesn't really work that hard on it. She just, like, has a sudden epiphany about geometry, and then suddenly she's good at hockey. So, that's kind of disinteresting, too. And then there's this whole, like, subplot line about her little brother being jealous of her. He stops playing hockey because she starts playing hockey, and he doesn't want to be compared to her or something. It was a totally unnecessary side plot. It was just, like, added nothing to the movie. Like, who cares about her little brother? He doesn't even, like, live in the same part of the state as her. So, there's that. And then also, her love interest in this movie is super not cute. Like, I know, no offense to him, he's not an ugly guy, but I'm just saying he's not, like, the heartthrob Disney Channel original movie love interest that I'm used to seeing. So even that was kind of not that fun to watch. There's nothing innovative about this movie. Teamwork and friendship save the day, whatever. I give the story 2 out of 5. The acting is actually pretty good, 4 out of 5. Lesson, 3 out of 5. It's important to learn to work on a team. And enjoyability, 3 out of 5. So even though it sounds like I panned this movie, the score is not that bad. Next up, Jump In, starring Corbin Bleu as Izzy. This is kind of another basic defying gender stereotype movie. Corbin Bleu is a cute fellow, so it's fun to watch him. And he is a kind spirit, which is admirable. But overall, the movie is kind of boring. I'm going to try not to just say this was boring, this was exciting, whatever. Basically, part of the reason why I think this movie is kind of boring is that Double Dutch is not cool. This is a movie about, like, Double Dutch competitions. To be fair, the sport he was originally playing in the movie, which is boxing, is also not that interesting. So he just goes from one kind of blah sport to another. And the thing is about the double dutching, it's not just the double dutch isn't cool, it's just the way that they shoot it in the movie. Like, you can't even really see what they're doing half the time. And I think maybe part of it is because they're using body doubles because Corbin Bleu doesn't actually know how to double dutch like a pro, so they're putting someone else in there to do all the cool tricks, and so because of that, they're, like, cutting a lot, and you can't really see like their whole body. Like you maybe see their hands jumping up and down on the floor for a minute, and then like it'll cut to Corbin Bleu just like skipping there for a second, and then it'll cut again. And so it's not even like it's that interesting to watch the double dutch routines. And the other thing is that like Corbin Bleu's or Izzy's double dutch team in the movie is clearly worse than the other ones. Like we're meant to believe that, wow, they did really great at this tournament, but like it looked like what they were doing is a lot less interesting than what everyone else was doing, in my opinion. So I don't know. And the thing is, like, I can't fathom why the movie is as long as it is. Like, it's a feature-length movie, it's over an hour long, and it just doesn't really feel like there's that much happening to make it that long. The best part is that Izzy kind of takes the high road with his high school bully, and that's really like the best part of the movie, is like him learning to be empathetic with the kid, and like, I don't know. But that's kind of like a subplot, a secondary plot. And so like the best part of the movie takes up very little of the movie, and the rest of the movie is just him. I don't know what happens in this movie. Like, I watched the whole thing and I couldn't tell you what it was about this movie that made it an hour and a half long. Just him struggling over whether he wants to be a boxer or a double dutcher for an hour and a half. Nothing happens. And even the love interest is kind of blasé. Keke Palmer is a very cute girl. She plays a girl named Mary in this movie who has an interesting personality, at least, but like it's just kind of like blah, who cares if they get together or not. And the movie's narrated by his bully, which like I guess is cool because it like shows how much they really reconciled with each other. But it's like, who would talk about somebody they went to high school with like that? Like, he's talking about him like he's an idol to him or something. It's very strange. Anyway, I give this story 2 out of 5. I give the lesson 2 out of 5, because honestly I can't even remember what the lesson of this movie was. Like, just be yourself and play sports that you like. Don't live your dad's dream, find your own dream. I don't know. Lesson gets 2 out of 5. The acting is actually really good, so I give it a 5 out of 5. Enjoyability, though, gets 1 out of 5. This is probably my lowest rated enjoyability DCOM, which surprised me because I feel like I remember commercials for this a lot when I was a kid, and I just thought I would like it more, but I didn't. Sorry, Corbin Bleu. Next up, Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior. So Wendy Wu is another movie about being popular. So this is not a sports related movie. This is the first in our movies about high school popularity. And Wendy Wu, it's got Brenda Song in it, who played in The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. So she's a familiar face. Love that. And this is actually a pretty interesting DCOM concept. It's not about singing or music or magic or sports. It's about kung fu. So basically Brenda Song is playing this girl who's like, I guess, been prophesied about by Buddhist monks to be like the avenger of evil or something. I don't know. So basically it's a genetic thing, and she's supposed to be this dragon warrior or something like that who will defeat this evil. And the Chinese monk, there's like a young Chinese monk who's sent to America to like track her down and help her train or something, and his name is Shang, I think, and he's really cute, but he is not a very good actor. Not trying to be mean, but the guy who plays him is just, it's cheesy. I don't know. He's doing like this, maybe it is his real accent, but it sounds like a fakey Chinese accent. Anyway, the fighting is also cheesy, but the flips that they do and the twists are actually pretty fun. The thing that's weird about the fighting is that like every time they punch each other, a bunch of dust flies out. And at first, like, I wasn't paying super close attention to this one fight scene that's happening between her brother, who's under like a trance, and Shang the monk. And at first I thought they were at the museum where her mom works, and that's why there was dust flying everywhere, because like it was dust flying off of the artifacts. But then I looked closely and like, no, they were just at her house. So apparently her parents never dust, and also like her brother's got really bad dandruff, and so does Shang, because like every time they punch each other there's just dust, and every time like he lands on the floor, like dust comes up. I don't know why there is dust everywhere in this movie. Every time they punch each other, just dust flies out of them. Anyway, I'm not Chinese, so I guess I don't really get to make a judgment on this, but I think that the story might actually be a little bit culturally insensitive. The dad says that he wants to re-embrace their Chinese heritage because they've just been living as straight Americans instead of like Chinese Americans. But his whole like change of heart is inspired by the fake Buddhist kung fu monk, and his like fake Chinese mythology. So it's like, it's not really representing like very much real Chinese culture. So he's like, I'm inspired to re-embrace my fake Chinese heritage. Like, it just doesn't, I don't feel like it really connects. But like I said, I'm not Chinese, so if you are and you watch this movie and felt like touched by it, then sound off in the comments, I guess. The lesson of this movie is also not super relatable. So the lesson is that the struggle of good versus evil is more important than high school popularity. And to be honest, I feel like most of us don't really face that conundrum. We're not like, ooh, should I save the world today, or campaign for homecoming queen. Like, we just don't go through that. Also, Wendy lies about the Buddhist monk's identity. She says that he is her cousin visiting from China, and she never really faces up to that lie. So nobody at school ever finds out that he's not her cousin. And it's weird because they kind of become love interests. And so it's like, is her plan just to be like, oop, yep, I'm dating my cousin now, or what? So I don't really understand what was going on with that. Like, she never just confessed, like, no, this isn't my cousin. This is, what was she supposed to say? This is a Buddhist monk who came to train me in the ways of kung fu so I could defeat evil. It's one of those things you shouldn't look too closely at it because it starts to fall apart. The pacing of this movie is also kind of odd, as with most DCOMs. They do have like a little makeover scene where she makes Shang look less like a Buddhist monk and more like an American teenager. And it's cute, but that scene is way too long, which kind of contributes to the weird pacing issues. And also, there's nothing clever about the ending. I won't go into it too much, but like, the prophecy says that Shang's supposed to die, and he doesn't, and like, it's just like, well, Wendy, you get to choose your own destiny. And it's like, well, what's the whole point of the prophecy if she could choose something else for herself? So like, the ending is not very clever, and it's just kind of like, whatever you want to happen happens, it doesn't matter. So anyway, all that said, the story, even though there's some kind of plot holes in it, I still give it a 4 out of 5 because it's original. The acting only gets a 2 out of 5. Brenda Song didn't even really give that good of a performance. The lesson, 2 out of 5. High school popularity is not as important as good versus evil, but it's not very relatable. But the enjoyability, I give 4 out of 5. The next movie we'll be talking about is Minutemen. This movie I remember vividly watching as a kid. I remember waiting for this movie to come out. I was excited to watch it premiere. I think I watched it at my grandparents' house because DCOMs, I think, usually came out on Fridays back in those days. They may still do, I don't know. But it came out on a Friday, and when I was a kid, we went over to my grandparents' house almost every Friday, so I had to watch it there. And my mom watched it with me, and she was really judgmental about how bad it was. But I liked it, obviously, because I was a middle school kid. So I was curious, watching it back as an adult, if I would have the same opinion as my mom, be kind of put out with it and think it was stupid. Because I'll be honest, I watched it as a kid, but I don't have a ton of nostalgia for the movie. But honestly, I was surprised. It was not bad. The beginning of the movie, Jason Dolly, who is playing a kid named Virgil, has braces, which is really cute. And the whole concept of the movie is actually pretty interesting, like this concept of crucial moments in a person's life changing things forever, like life course altering events. How small a moment is, how big it can wind up being in terms of who you wind up being. It's an interesting concept, and I think it's handled pretty well as well, showing how those moments can shape us. The story is pretty cute. The friendship between Charlie, who's this kind of young kid who's like super advanced and going through high school quickly, the relationship and the friendship between him and Virgil is really precious. I usually hate time travel stories, which is what this is. Like, they're going back in time to fix little mistakes so that people's lives don't get ruined. And I usually don't like time travel stories because the alternate timelines get confusing and like, oh, now there's 2 of me, like all that kind of stuff. But the way that they handled the time travel is pretty straightforward. It helps that they're only able to travel back short periods of time. But of course, the ending just resets everything. Again, sorry, spoiler alert. But the ending of the movie just resets everything back to the way it was, like, at the beginning of the movie, roughly. So it's kind of like most of the stuff that happens in the movie never actually happens in the timeline they're living in, which gets to the heart of my issue with time travel movies, is like alternate timelines and stuff like that are irritating. So basically, most of the movie never happened by the end of the movie, so what was the point of all of that? I guess it's so that they could all learn a lesson about friendship being better than popularity, which is a pretty standard Disney Channel original movie lesson to teach. Also, like, that's not how black holes work. If you watch this movie, you'll understand the ending has to do with black holes. I don't think that's how black holes work. If you have a tiny black hole, it doesn't matter what size the black hole is, it's still gonna suck everything up. Like, if there was a black hole on Earth, like, we would all be gone. Once there's a black hole, it's over. At least that's my understanding of how black holes work. But Disney Channel movie writers may have a better concept of physics than I do. I somehow doubt that. Anyway, I give the story 2 out of 5, probably due to personal biases against time travel stories. The acting gets a 4 out of 5, the lesson gets a 3 out of 5. But all in all, it's actually pretty enjoyable, so I give that a 4 out of 5 and for enjoyability. Now, I didn't necessarily intend to do 2 Jason Dolly DCOMs in the same video, but it just so happens that he's in another DCOM about popularity, which is called Hatching Pete. It's actually a very cute DCOM, but it's basically the exact same plot as Radio Rebel, which we'll review in a later video, which is, you know, the secret identity and will it be exposed, and like the person who has the secret identity is really popular, but the actual person is not popular, and so it's like, what will happen if I reveal that that's me? Will people be disappointed? Like, it's literally the exact same issue. It's just instead of him being a radio DJ, he's a school mascot. Which, that's unrealistic. Nobody really cared about the school mascot. Even if the mascot was a really good mascot, it's not like, wow, this kid's really cool. It's like, wow, this kid's really lame. It's kind of like if somebody's really good at the school musical, like they're really funny in the musical and they do a really good job in the musical, that's still not going to make them cool at school. That's just going to be like, oh, now they're popular amongst theater nerds. Anyway, not to get too wrapped up in that. I do like it because it's not preachy and dramatic, and it doesn't have as much weird blinking by Debbie Ryan. So, between Radio Rebel and Hatching Pete, if you're going to watch a movie about popularity and secret identities, I would recommend watching Hatching Pete instead. And when I review Radio Rebel at a later date, we'll get more into why. There's 2 issues I have with this movie, though. Number 1, Pete's friend Cletus, he never gets called out for how selfish he is, and he never apologizes. Like, he straight up is about to kiss his friend's crush, like, right in front of him, and, like, he doesn't even feel bad about it. Like, what is wrong with him? And number 2, the stakes for Pete revealing himself as the chicken are way too low. So, like, if he reveals himself as the chicken, like, nothing bad is really going to happen to him, because basically everyone is like, oh, you won't get in trouble for the stuff you did as the chicken or whatever, like, we'll look the other way. But the other thing that doesn't make any sense is that throughout this movie, his friend Cletus keeps telling Pete, like, how funny he is and how charming he is, and, like, but outside of the chicken costume, Pete is the most boring person ever. Like, when he's not the chicken, he's not funny at all, so I have no idea what Cletus is talking about saying that his friend is funny. Cletus is way more funny than Pete, but kids at school remark that he is not funny. So it's like, Pete, who never does anything funny when he's not in the chicken costume, apparently is hilarious. But Cletus, who's constantly making funny, sarcastic remarks, is not funny at all. The writing is not very good. Otherwise, the story makes sense, even if it's hard to believe that a mascot would become popular, and also, he also gets by too easily. Like, there's stuff that happens that he should be getting in trouble for, but, like, they all look the other way. Stakes are low. There's no real drama in the movie, but it is cute. So, I give the story a 4 out of 5. The acting gets a 3 out of 5 because Jason Dolly has no charisma in this movie, which is weird because he normally does have charisma. I don't know what was going on with this movie. The lesson, I'm just going to give a 1 out of 5 because it's so overdone, and enjoyability, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. The final movie I'm going to review is Geek Charming. It's a pretty high quality DCOM. I actually think that it seems more like it would be on ABC Family or Lifetime, which I know is not really that high of a compliment, but I'm just saying it's not a super cheesy seeming kids movie. It almost, it almost seems like it could go to theaters as like something like New York Minute, like that Mary-Kate and Ashley movie that was in theaters, or Material Girls, or A Cinderella Story, which I think went to theaters. It's on the same level as those types of movies, so it's the kind of movie that I think could have gotten a theatrical release and not done well at all. Like the rest of those movies didn't do well at all, but it could have gone to theaters, and especially since the cast is pretty good. It has Sarah Hyland, who is on Modern Family, and it has the girl who plays Allie from Pretty Little Liars. I really don't know how to pronounce her name, but anyway, I think it's also an interesting look at popularity, because I always wonder how like these movies and TV shows portray like the meanest girls ever getting to be so popular, because like when I was in school, the mean people were not popular, but somehow in DCOMs usually the mean girls are super popular. So this kind of shows how like those mean girls have two faces. Basically they've got two sides. Like they're nice outwardly, but they're mean and judgy inside their group. So then it makes sense how they become popular at school, because they're fake basically to people. And it was actually interesting because we get to see the popular girl confront her flaws in actually a very public display, which is the documentary that the whole movie's about. This guy named Josh is making a documentary about popularity, and he displays this documentary that he makes at a film festival, and she has to confront basically at the film festival, watching the documentary of herself, all of the things she says, and basically see all of her character flaws, thrown up in her face. The thing is, obviously she's a good person at heart. Like, she's got a story to her and blah blah blah, she's a real person. The thing is about the movie that doesn't really make a ton of sense is that the documentary that he makes actually looks like it's pretty crappy, and it's supposed to have won the film festival. So I think to myself, how did he win the film festival with this crappy film? I don't know. But like I said, it's got a good cast, and the love story aspect was actually pretty surprising, which I know sounds stupid, like the main guy and the main girl in the movie get together, but I really wasn't expecting it per se, because he had another love interest, and it just seemed like, it's almost like it was surprising because it seemed so obvious. But and the other thing is that the set design is good, and I know that's a weird thing to remark on, but a lot of times Disney Channel original movies have kind of cheap looking sets. But the sets in Geek Charming are actually really good looking. So overall, I give the story a 4 out of 5. I give the acting a 5 out of 5. The lesson, which again is friends are more important than popularity, is boring, so I give the lesson a 2 out of 5, and the enjoyability gets a 4 out of 5. So that is my last DCOM review for this video. As we move on, we will continue with our ranking system or our rating system, and then I'm thinking that once I've reviewed every DCOM, I may do a final wrap-up video or actually do aggregate of all of their scores, and then take those scores and put them in order of like what I actually rated them. And movies that are tied, for the average score, I'm going to probably shift around to see which one's my favorite. But let me know if that's something you'll be interested in seeing. But that's it for this first video of my DCOM review series. Let me know what movies you're looking forward to hearing me review. I'm going to do a mix of movies in every video, just like on this one, so you'll just have to keep watching to see when your favorite DCOM will get reviewed. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye.